Hi everyone, Adam Beck here, Managing Director of the Digital Planning Advisory Neon Urban, and welcome back to Digital in Place, your channel for news and views on all things digital that is shaping public places, spaces, and infrastructure. So, exciting news. Today we're going to be unpacking the brand new, just released SEQ Digital Plan. This is a 10-year roadmap released under the SEQ City Deal that sets out how South East Queensland will harness digital technology and really drive productivity, livability, and economic growth going forward over the next decade. So if you're an urban planner and you're working somewhere in South East Queensland right now, this one is directly in your lane. So let's get into it. What is the SEQ digital plan? And I suppose a really important question, why does it exist? This has been a journey for quite some time. SEQ is one of Australia's fastest growing regions. As we know, we've got more than 4 million people here today. By 2046, an extra 2 million. We've got 1 million new jobs coming in. We've got to build 900,000 new homes. It's an extraordinary amount of growth to plan for, coordinate, and deliver. And this is not unique. We've gone through this for quite some time. Now, the digital plan is the first of its kind for this region in some way. There have been previous iterations that haven't had the teeth or the implementation framework. So this 10-year framework, which has been developed under the City Deal, now that's a partnership, of course, between the Australian government, Queensland government, and the Council of Mayors for SEQ. Its central premise is kind of quite simple, which is simple and powerful, which is SEQ needs to operate as a digital region, period. Not as 12 separate councils doing their own digital thing in isolation, but really one that's an integrated digital ecosystem that plans, invests, and delivers together. Now, there's a governance advantage to SEQ. There always has been. The Council of Mayors has been a very effective governance framework. So we already have 12 local governments which cover the region. Now, compare that to example for Greater Sydney that has 33, and our global peer average has 39. So SEQ is genuinely positioned to coordinate digital at a transformational scale, which is really a competitive advantage if we want to take that opportunity. So I want to talk about that scale, not only of the challenge but also of the opportunity. And so this plan is pretty direct about SEQ's current digital maturity. It's not necessarily the prettiest picture, despite some strong momentum. We do rank 9 out of 10 globally for scale and maturity of innovation. It's 23% less productive than its global peer regions, and its digital landscape remains fragmented, misaligned strategies. We've got inconsistent connectivity and data that we're not sharing. But the opportunity is significant now, particularly with this plan and also the funding attached to it. We're the second fastest growing region globally for venture capital investment. We're in the top 20 fastest growing regional tech ecosystems, and Brisbane 2032 is a once in a generation opportunity and catalyst for digital foundations, as we know. So this plan really organizes its priorities around some digital foundation areas, and it has 6 focus areas. Now, for urban planners, all of them matter, but let me touch on a couple of key ones that I think matter most to the planning community. So we're going to touch on these 4 foundations and what planners need to know. The first foundation is a common data environment. This is a big one for planning practice and the planning community. The plan calls for a regional common data environment. That is a shared, secure platform which integrates critical data sets across councils, agencies, and industry. We're talking about zoning, hazard data, machine-readable planning rules, development applications, 3D cadastre, transport flows, environmental sensors, infrastructure asset data. There's a lot there that we can all bring together in one secure place. Now, the priority actions that are directly relevant for planners within this common data environment, let me go through a couple. Firstly, of course, no surprise, AI-supported development assessment. So scaling compliance checking and data analysis across SEQ councils to accelerate application processing. Secondly, digital innovation in housing delivery. This means that we can be digitizing planning rules into API-based systems, enabling, I suppose, a really competitive plan tech market to be catalyzed. And we can create commercial incentives for adoption of digital tools like BIM, as an example. Now, the other one with the common data environment is the opportunity to bring in integrated 3D cadastre and land titling, a single source of truth for the property life cycle supporting digital by default approvals. And lastly, real-time transport and city operations. So we're talking AI-enhanced optimization of transport networks, which are tied directly to planning decisions. So this common data environment, this CDE, is critical, and it's a huge opportunity. If SEQ gets this right, this foundation piece, planners will have access to shared spatial intelligence that no single council could really build alone. Assessment timelines could accelerate, evidence would be improved through quality, and the ability to test scenarios, what if questions around housing supply and infrastructure sequencing, climate risk. This becomes a routine part of practice, not a resource intensive exception like it is now. So that's the first foundation. The second foundation, digital ID, digital identity. Less directly a planning tool, but important context nonetheless. And a consistent regional digital ID framework means that builders and developers and consultants can use one secure login across all councils. And that means permits, applications, inspections, streamlined, less red tape, faster transactions. That's a productivity gain the whole development pipeline benefits from. So let me touch on the third foundation, which is digital infrastructure and connectivity. Now, planners will increasingly be asked to make decisions about digital infrastructure as land use, and we're seeing it right now, right across the country, not just in SEQ. The plan is explicit about this. Data centers are critical sovereign infrastructure, and SEQ is positioning itself as a preferred location for low-carbon data center investment. Lower land costs than New South Wales and Victoria, access to renewables, submarine connections via the Sunshine Coast sea cable. These are all great positioning opportunities for SEQ, and why digital infrastructure is becoming critical infrastructure for SEQ. And so the plan, what it does, it calls out for a SEQ data center strategy. I suppose really here what we want to do is identify precincts and land opportunities and the sustainability requirements that are needed. The second one under the Digital Infrastructure Foundation, really critical, a model town planning code for telecommunications infrastructure that really tries to help us harmonize those planning settings across the region. Lastly, a coordinated approach to mobile connectivity delivery in new developments. Now, this builds on the TIND policy framework that I covered in an earlier episode. And really what I'm seeing here is this is telecommunications planning 2.0, and it's landing squarely within the planning system. So digital infrastructure is the third foundation. The final one, foundation 4, is implementation coordination. This plan clearly acknowledges that plan without implementation is irrelevant, and that fragmented delivery is the region's Achilles heel at the moment. So foundation 4 is really about establishing the governance and the shared standards and the procurement frameworks that allow us to scale proven solutions across the region rather than every council having to reinvent the wheel. So that fourth foundation in the plan is absolutely critical and enables effective goals and outcomes to be realized. So for planners, this really means more consistent digital tools at your fingertips, more interoperable systems, and a clearer pathway for innovations developed in one council to be adopted and scaled region-wide. That's really exciting. Now, the plan, on top of the 4 foundations, it has 6 focus areas. Planning is front and center, but I want to touch on 3 that I think are most relevant for planners. The first one is going to be no surprise: housing demand and population growth. The ambition is for a fully digitized property and approvals ecosystem with AI-powered forecasting tools. And layering into that, digital twins that help us simulate infrastructure scenarios to accelerate smarter, more sustainable development. Now, that's not a distant future state. These are priority actions that are already framed and funded. The second one is disaster resilience and weather, real-time environmental intelligence, predictive responses, coordinated data sharing between local councils and utilities and emergency services. Planners are already dealing with some of the most severe frequent weather events that we've seen in modern time. This gives us real good data infrastructure and processes to plan proactively rather than reactively. And then the third one, in terms of the focus areas, is transport and mobility. And imagine a dynamic traffic management, AI optimized, route planning powered transportation system in SEQ. Planners doing strategic work, corridor identification and analysis, development assessment. This is a step change in the quality of evidence that's going to be available to us here in South East Queensland as policymakers and practitioners. So what does this mean for us as practitioners and urban planners in SEQ? Well, there's a couple of takeaways, I think, for planning professions that are really quite relevant. Firstly, shared data is coming. We talk about shared data, we talk about open data, but genuine shared data is coming, and you need to be ready to use it. The common data environment, that this CDE is going to be the most significant shift in how planning decisions will be made in this region. Planners who can work fluently with shared data sets, APIs, and AI-assisted analysis are going to have a real advantage. Secondly, what does this mean for planners? Digital infrastructure is a land use issue now. This is not an IT issue. This is not a technology issue. This is a planning issue. Data centers, subsea cable landing points, edge compute facilities, these are entering the planning system as real applications, and we need the policy settings, assessment frameworks, and design standards to deal with them all. And I know firsthand that the Planning Institute of Australia is working very hard on the data centers piece right now, with guidance to be published soon, which is going to be really, really helpful. The third one is assessment processes are going to accelerate. They're going to change. AI-supported compliance checking and machine-readable planning rules will change the cadence and the rhythm of development assessment. That's an opportunity to focus professional judgment where it adds most value. And the challenge is going to be to make sure those systems are designed with the appropriate transparency and ethics, of course. And PIA has been playing a huge advocacy role and providing guidance in this for a number of years now. Lastly, what does this mean for planners? Well, the profession itself has a leadership role in this digital governance. The plan emphasizes responsible AI adoption. It emphasizes privacy protections to be embedded in the design of these systems. And transparency really is about how digital tools influence decisions. Planners are exactly the right profession to help champion that, and SEQ needs that voice in the room. My time, shout out to the Planning Institute of Australia Queensland Plan Tech Working Group and all those great people that are working on helping drive this agenda forward. So I can't talk about what this means for planners without mentioning Brisbane 2032, and that's really, in my view, the rocket fuel here. The Games aren't just a sporting event, as we know. They're a force for digital transformation across the whole region if we take that opportunity. Transportation, city operations, resilient infrastructure, data platforms. The planning system will be part of the delivery of this legacy that we all aspire to. So, the SEQ digital plan is here. This is genuinely a significant piece of policy, and it has funding. This coordinated, funded digital plan is the first for Australia, but it won't implement itself. It's going to take planners and technologists, industry, government all working together to make it real. But the direction is very clear. SEQ is committing to operating as a digital region, and urban planners are central to making that work on the ground. I'm Adam Beck from Neon Urban. Thanks for watching this episode of Digital in Place. If there's anything in this update that's of interest, reach out to us at Neon Urban. We'd be happy to help. See you in the next one.